Hi, if you are seeing my videos for the first time, so I am Teja. I have around 10 plus years of experience and working as a technical team lead right now. So in the previous session, we have discussed about what is RAG, and if you want to create a RAG, what is the step-by-step procedure. And we have also gone through the RAG architecture. So this is the RAG architecture. So in this session, so we are going to create our first RAG. Okay, let us go step by step. So the in the first step, so we need to define what kind of documents that are going to be there in your knowledge base. So for our example, so we will be using PDF files, so which are the company policies that can be leave policy, internet policy, your mission policies. So we are going to use some policies which are created by ChatGPT, and we will create a RAG with those policies. So once you have the policies ready, the next thing would be loading them to the LangChain. So if you remember, we have discussed about LangChain. LangChain is an open source framework. So we are going to use LangChain to create this RAG. So the first step is loading the documents to the RAG. So let's see how we can do that. Okay. Our first step is to load the documents. So we are trying to create a knowledge base or RAG based on a company policy. So I have created a folder called first RAG. Under this first RAG, there is another folder called policies. And under these policies, so I have created some policies by the help of ChatGPT, and it has some attendance policies, dress code, whatever the policies may be. So we are least bothered about them. So we are only bothered about creating a RAG and how the responses are getting created from those policies. Okay, so once you have this folder structure ready, so I will be initiating my folder with UV so that it can create Python folder structure, as I will be using Python for the coding. Let me open terminal, new terminal. So I am under this folder first RAG, and look at this contents in this folder. So once I run UV init, so it will initialize the Python folder structure. So it will have pyproject.toml for the dependencies, and other folders are created. And I will be using this rag.py for the code generation of Python. Okay, once you initialize the folder, so you need to install LangChain. UV add LangChain. So UV is the same package manager like pip, but it is little faster than the pip while it is installing the stuff. Let me do UV add LangChain. So it is installing the stuff. Okay, so once you have this UV add LangChain package installed, so you can install LangChain underscore community as well. So this is also another package which is going to help us in creating a RAG. Okay, so what is our first goal? To load documents. Okay, to load the documents, so there is a package called LangChain underscore community, LangChain underscore community dot document underscore loaders. So we will be using this LangChain package, and then there is a class called directory loader, and there is another class called PyPDF loader. So why we are using this? So if you want to load these PDF files one after another, so you can create by using PyPDF loader. But if you want to add all these PDF files at a single shot, you will be using directory loader. So that's where I am using these two classes. From this I will say a object called loader, and in this loader I will be using directory loader class, and here I need to define where is my policies are getting stored. So where are my policies? So my policies are under the same folder with the name of policies, and you need to define another argument. So if you want to know what are those arguments and from where they are coming, just scroll to this directory loader and you can see a pop-up. So you should define path, and then you should define globe. Globe is nothing but a wildcard search. So what kind of extension files you want to load by using directory loader, and then you will be defining the loader class. So these are more than enough for our first drag. Okay, what is the next step? So you have to define globe. So my goal is to add all the files with the extension .pdf. So I will be using star.pdf, and then I have to define the loader class. So what is my loader class? It is py pdf loader. So I have created an object, and then I will load those documents by using a load method, and I will assign this to a variable called docs. Understood? So we have loaded our documents. So how can we verify? So if you want, we can use print length of document or length of docs. So if you run this, so you can get the documents which are loaded. To run this Python file, you will be using uv run. Where is this rag? Uv run rag.py. So if you find some error stating that the py pdf is not found, or directory loader is not found, or LangChain community is not found, so you can just use uv add, and you can use the name whatever you found it on the address, so that it will be installed. That's not a code error. That's error due to the packages are not available in this environment. So right now you can see the length of documents which got uploaded is 5. That is because of the pages. So if you look at this pdf document, it has 5 pages and it has 4 pages. So in the same way, these pdf files are going to have pages which is of count 24. So that's why you got the page count as, or length of documents as 24. It has taken each page section. Okay, that's about our loading. And our next thing is splitting them into chunks. So split or chunk. So for this splitting or chunking, there is another package called LangChain. You can see in the suggestions. So LangChain text splitter. So this is the package we are going to use from LangChain. And then import. So we are going to use recursive character text splitter. It is best for splitting PDF documents which are with the text. For the text, this is more than enough. So again, in the same way how we have created a loader, I will be using creating a object called splitter, and I will be using this class, recursive class, and then I have to provide my things that are required for this class. If you go to this section, you can look at here. So what are the things that are required? In the splitter, you can define chunk size, chunk overlap and all. Okay, I will be defining a chunk size. Oh, 1 minute. Yes. Why I'm not able to generate suggestions? There is some issue with the suggestions. This is chunk underscore size or chunk size. Let me look at here. Okay, I think we can't use chunk size and overlap here. This chunk size and chunk overlap can be used only for text files. As I'm using this PDF, so I will try to do one thing. I will use this splitter and recursive character splitter, and I will keep it as it is. I don't want to use any customized splitters. I will use the default splitter. That's okay, no worries. And then chunks, I will be splitter the object I have created. And then if you look at here, so there is something called split documents, the method. So what you want to split? You want to split the docs. So where these docs are coming? These documents are coming from this. So we have loaded the documents, and then we have created a splitter object, and then we are creating chunks by using splitter underscore document method for the documents. So if you want to see how many chunks has been created, so how many chunks has been created for all these 5 PDFs. So you can use the same stuff, print length of chunks. So initially we use docs to see the number of docs uploaded. So here we are looking for the chunks. Let me run this. So we are doing step by step and checking whether they are properly getting created or not. If you look at here, by default it has created 25 chunks. It has created 25 chunks. And the next thing is, what is our next thing? We have already loaded the documents, we have splitted it, and let me get the architecture diagram. This is the architecture diagram. So load is completed, split is completed. So we need to convert the embeds. So we have to call the embedding model, and then we have to convert it into chunking. So for that we have to define our embedding model. So for embedding, so you will be calling a model which is available in the GCP. For embeddings, we are going to call the embedding model which are available in the GCP. So how we can know what models are available in the GCP? So you can Google it. If you are new to these embedded models, so you can Google it. GCP text embedded models which are in free tier. So we are using free tier. So we will be searching for the free tier. What are the models available? Free tier limits. So we have Gemini provides RAG, AI Studio. Yeah, I need them in AI Studio. Let me open the official link. Get text embeddings, where I can see. Yeah, look at this. So these are all the models which are available in the GCP. So we have Gemini embedding and we have text embedding 005. So if it is multi, language, we can use multi-ringer. And if you look at this output dimensions and max sequence length, so these are the vectors. So when you create a vector by using this embedding model, so it will create a vector in 3072 dimensions. If you use this embedding model, so your vector will have 768 dimensions. If you use this multi-ringer embedding, will have again up to 768 embeddings. This max sequence length is the tokens. Tokens are nothing but how those are helpful when you are chunking. So right now we are not going in depth as we are creating our first RAG. So when we create a RAG for the productionized setup, so we'll be discussing about it. What is this maximum sequence length? This is nothing but what is the maximum chunk you can create, because if you create a chunk which is more than this, these models are not capable of creating good results. Okay, now let's get back to our code. We will be using embeddings. So we have to create an embedding model. For that we will be using LangChain underscore Google underscore. I think this is not available. I have to install it. If you're seeing this yellow line below my package name, that states that I need to install it. Yeah, it's not available. Let me do one thing. So let me install this package, uv langchain google-gen AI. So this is the package available in the langchain to use the embedding models which are available in the GCP. uv add. So how I am figuring out these packages, because I have already done this a couple of times. So I research. Even I have to search by myself. So when I'm doing it for the first time, I have to figure out what package is responsible for what, and what class is going to help us in creating the required embeddings for or loading or splitting. So I have to do it by myself. When I'm doing it for the first time, I have to do the research and all, as I got already doing it for a couple of times, so I can remember the stuff. So I will be using Google Gen AI package. So first you have to figure out what package is there to fulfill your requirement. That is the only thing. And then Google Generative AI embeddings. So this is going to help us in creating embedding model. So I will be creating an object called embeddings, and then I will be using Google Generative AI embeddings. So this is a class, and so what are the things I can place in here? So I can place model. So this is the main thing I have to define. So I have to define my model. So what model I wanted to use. So I will be not this. Where is that another tab? Yeah, I will be using this text embedding model. That is enough for me. And okay, so I will be using this embedding model. While we are creating your knowledge base, there is no let me get the architecture. So while you're creating your knowledge base, there is no need of you to call the embedding model and convert them into vectors and store it into vector database. You can't do it. So there is no need of you to create the vectors and store them into vector database. You can directly create a vector database store, and you can attach this embedding model, So once you attach this embedding model, so whatever documents you are adding to this vector, whatever chunks you are adding to this vector database, those will be by default converted into vectors. Let me reiterate. So as per our uh, the process, the steps we already discussed. So the next step is we need to call a embedding model and convert our chunks into the vectors, and then the chunks has to be stored into the vector database. So that is the actual flow for understanding. But when we are setting up the RAG, so there is no need of you to follow this conversion from chunk to the vectors and storing them to the vector database. So what we are going to do, so we are going to create a vector database, and then we are going to attach this embedding model to the vector database. And once you attach this embedding model to the vector database, so we will directly add our chunks to the vector database, so that whatever the chunks which are adding to the vector database will be converted into vectors by using embedding model. I hope it is clear. So let's do that. So what is our next step? So we already called embedding model from the GCP, and the next step we have to do is, so we have to create a vector database store. So let's go in here, and the next step is vector database store. So to create a vector database, so even we'll be using the same LangChain stuff. So we have a module called LangChain. I didn't remember. Let me try. From LangChain underscore, there should be something called Chroma, if I'm not wrong. Import Chroma. Let's see if this package is not available. I will try to add uv add LangChain underscore Chroma. Yeah, there is a typo. LangChain underscore Chroma. See, there is something called ChromaDB is also getting installed in the packages. Let it download all the packages. Okay. So once it is installed, then the same logic, we'll create an object for the vector store. So how we can create an object? So we can give any name. Why it is still in red? From LangChain underscore Chroma, import Chroma. Any issue? Yeah, it's Chroma only. Okay, let's see. Once we run, if there are any issues, so we can resolve it by looking at the error. So I will be creating a vector store, and then I will be using a class called Chroma dot from documents. So I'll be creating a vector store with a class called Chroma and the method called from documents. So if you want to see what are the things that are allowed inside, so 1 minute. So can you see the documents? The first thing is the documents you want to add to this, and then the second thing is embedding. So what embedding you want to attach to the vector database, so that when you are adding any chunks, so those will be stored as a vectors, and you can define the collection name, that is your choice. So let's go one by one. The first thing you will be providing is documents. So when I say documents here, the documents are nothing but chunks. So from here the chunks are coming, and when you add those chunks, so those chunks will be converted into embeddings by using embedding model. So this is my embedding equal to embeddings. Okay, and what is the other one we can define? We have defined documents, and we have defined embeddings. So what else? There should be something called collection name. Yeah, where is it? Where is it? This one, collection name. So you can add the collection name here, and then you also have to define persistent directory where you want to store your vector db data. So I will be using collection name. I'm naming it as my first RAG, and I will be using persistent directory. So where I want to store them, I want to store them in the same folder with the name of Chroma. I can also use Chroma DB. So let me create one folder here. I'm creating a folder called Chroma DB. So my Chroma DB data will be stored in the same folder, vector DB data. So the reason we are using Chroma for the development stuff is there is no need of you to install them. So it is provided as a package by LangChain. You can install from the LangChain package. There is no need of you to install the stuff separately. That is the main advantage. Let's go back to our image. So we have loaded the documents, and we have split the documents, and we have created the vector database store so that it will be stored into the vector database. So let us see, is everything working till now? So once you have done this all these steps, so we have created a knowledge base, and the next thing is we will be querying it. Control S. So if I want to run this, uv run rag.py. So it has loaded 24 documents, and it has created 25 chunks, and then it has to store the vectors. So any issue here, trace back, text embedding. Yes. So here comes the main challenge. So now I'm trying to use the embedding model which is available in the GCP. So how can my this rag.py can speak to the embedding model which is available in GCP? So for that you need to you know define your project name, and then you have to define your location in GCP, in which location you want to create, and also you need to configure application default login credentials on your local by using GCP gcloud CLI. So if you want to know how those can be done, I also created a video in the AI02 Hero course. So how can we do that? So please go through that. But for right now, I am not going to do the stuff. I think the knowledge base is also taking more time. It's already more than 30 minutes, I can say, in the recording. So I will be creating a file called .env. So I will be passing all those values as a environmental variables. So let me get those variables. Those are already available in my other projects. I'm not explaining about the setup here because it takes more time. I already created a detailed video on it. How to talk to LLM. If you want, you can go there and see how we can authenticate your local uh, laptop to the GCP authentication. RAG GCP. This folder is empty. Where are they? Okay. These are the three things you need to define in your environmental variables. So if you want to use Vertex AI in the Google, you have to make it as a true on the Google Cloud project. So we need to get it from here. So this is my project which I already created. This project ID, and then the location US Central one, that is fine. But for authentication, it will be using my local credentials which are already configured in my local. So if you want to know how can you do that, so please follow my video which is already created. So let me try uv run rag.py. Yeah, again it is asking me for the same stuff because I have added the environmental variables, but I didn't added any step to load them to my environment. So I will be using from .env. So .env is a package which helps us to provide those environmental variables to this environment, and I will be using the load env and then loading my env variables. I'm going a little fast because it is taking more time than expected. I have to at least complete till the knowledge base, and then we can and we can discuss this second part in other video. Okay. Now let me run uv run. What is this? This one, okay. Invalid syntax. So we have corrected. And then let me clear the screen and run this again. So there are some errors. So what are those? Line 9, embeddings function. String object has no attributes get. So this is the issue. So from documents, embeddings, embedding equal to embeddings, collection name equal to collection name. My first tag, that is fine. Persistent directory, it's a string, and then embeddings. Okay, I found it. It should not be collection configuration, it is collection name. So we are not passing any configuration here, so we are passing a name. Now let me save it and rerun it. Come on. So meanwhile, let me construct one print statement so that we can see how many vectors has been stored. Stored, and then vector dot store dot collection collection count. I want to see something called collection dot counter. Yeah, chunks in the chroma db. So let me, okay, so what it will do, so if I run this print statement, so it is going to show me how many chunks has been stored in the chroma db. But I have already run it. If I run this for the second time, so it is going to restore the chunks again, so you will get the double count. But let's see what happens. Vector underscore store dot collection dot count. Okay, let me run it again. See how many chunks has been stored in the chroma db. 50 chunks. Why 50 chunks? So the chunks count should be 25, right? Because we ran it for the couple of times. I mean, we ran it twice. That's why it has reloaded them again. So every time you run this script, so it will create the new vectors for the same chunks. So it doesn't have the capability of checking whether those are already there or not. For that, you need to do some conditions to perform that. Okay, that is about uh, chunking and storing in the DB. So if you have this setup done, then we have completed till here. So we have loaded the documents, we have split the documents, we have converted them into vectors and stored into the database. So we have the knowledge base ready. And the next thing is to query this knowledge base. So that we are going to discuss in the next session. It is already more than 30 minutes, or it may come up to 40 minutes also. So I don't want to do it on the same session. So I will move this to the next thing. Okay. If you have any queries, please comment in the comment box. Thank you so much.